On this Thursday night, a court ruling puts a stop to the Trans Mountain Pipeline project. Ottawa's approval is overturned, and tonight its future is in doubt. Many Indigenous groups and environmentalists are calling it a win. The government is adamant it's still committed to the project, but tonight Rachel Notley got tough, announcing Alberta is pulling out of the federal climate strategy and calling Ottawa to appeal the ruling. We'll break down what comes next in the pipeline battle. Also tonight, inching closer to a deal. Canada and the U.S. go down to the wire on NAFTA.
And Health Canada's plan to deal with a nationwide EpiPen shortage. Could it open up the epinephrine market long term and end this country's dependence on a single supplier? This is The National.
In a stunning development today, the Federal Court of Appeal quashed the government's approval of the Trans Mountain Pipeline, putting its future in doubt and making it look more like a pipe dream. The court ruled that the government did not engage in meaningful two-way dialogue with First Nations communities during the last phase of the consultation process, saying it listened to groups but didn't actually respond enough or consider possible ways to deal with their concerns, and that the National Energy Board did not consider the impact increased tanker traffic. Snaking its way over 1,100 kilometers from Edmonton to Burnaby, the expansion would increase Trans Mountain's overall capacity by hundreds of thousands of barrels a day. But there was pushback from the very start. After years of environmental protests and ballooning costs, Kinder Morgan decided to bail. In May, Ottawa stepped in to buy the pipeline for billions of dollars. Now, clearly today's decision is a setback for the federal government. There is a lot of taxpayer money on the line, but as Briar Stewart explains, it is being seen as a win, at least for the time being, for those who oppose the pipeline project.
On the shores of Vancouver Harbour today, it was all smiles as members from several First Nations gathered to celebrate a big victory and a major roadblock for Trans Mountain.
It's a great day today. We won.
The First Nations were part of a larger group that argued Canada's approval of the contentious project should be quashed. And in the end, the Federal Court of Appeal agreed because it found there was inadequate consultation, saying Canada failed to dialogue meaningfully and grapple with the real concerns of the Indigenous applicants.
For years, Trudeau has been standing by their consultation plan, and it failed. It failed completely, and the courts agreed with us.
And that's not the only thing the court took issue with. It found that the review of the pipeline project was flawed. The court found that the National Energy Board made a critical mistake when conducting the review because it didn't take into account what impact the increase of marine tanker traffic would have on the environment, and in particular, the endangered southern resident killer whales. Because the population is already severely threatened.
The strength of the evidence.
Misty McDuffie is with the Rain Coast Conservation Foundation, one of two environmental groups that pushed for the approval to be overturned.
If killer whales are going to recover, the conditions within the Salish Sea could not get any worse, and this project would have made those conditions decline.
The cities of Vancouver and Burnaby were also part of this case, and while the federal court didn't side with their arguments, it's seen as a win nonetheless.
The question was, did the team win? It wasn't a question of who scored the goals. And so I think people in Burnaby are going to be looking at this and saying, we fought against this pipeline. But I think they can sit back and realize that this has been at least stalled.
While this doesn't automatically kill the project, it will at least add significant delays. All of the construction that was set to begin now has to be put on hold, while the federal government figures out just how to proceed when it comes to building a multi-billion-dollar pipeline it also now owns. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now, we should, of course, point out that not all First Nations communities oppose this pipeline. There are those that support it. Chief Michael Laborde sees it as a good opportunity for his community.
The frustrating part for many First Nations along the pipeline, many of whom support it, is that this would have meant a lot of jobs and a bit of jurisdiction and environmental oversight. So what we do have to do is build on this court decision to get even more oversight and either tax jurisdiction or buy the pipeline outright from Canada.
So how is all this going down next door in Alberta? Well, not well at all, judging by Rachel Notley's reaction tonight. As Carolyn Dunn reports, it's driving a huge policy wedge between the province and Ottawa.
Minutes after the federal appeals court dealt that blow to the Trans Mountain pipeline, Kinder Morgan shareholders voted more than 99% in favor of approving the sale of the project to the federal government. This shareholder still believes Ottawa has the best chance of getting the deal done.
It's a battle. It's a stupid one, but it's a battle, right? And they're going to have to fight it in order to get to go through.
But Alberta Premier Rachel Notley will likely wear the political scars. After all, she's been pitching the idea of what she calls social license. Pay a carbon tax, get pipelines built.
Trans Mountain was the big one, and it is being denied. And this was outside of the control of the Alberta government. This was nothing that they did or did not do, but Rachel Notley will get the blame for this.
As if on cue, opposition leader Jason Kenney called for Ottawa to appeal the ruling to the Supreme Court and for the Alberta government to repeal its carbon tax.
We'd call on Alberta's NDP to withdraw the carbon tax, which supposedly was going to get pipelines built.
A furious Rachel Notley addressed the province and Canada with this stunning announcement.
With the Trans Mountain halted and the work on it halted, until the federal government gets its act together, Alberta is pulling out of the federal climate plan.
Notley's government was so convinced Trans Mountain was a go, it factored revenues from the pipeline into its budget forecast.
They will get built because they're important for Canada, they're important for Alberta.
But no bitumen flowing through the stalled pipeline project means less revenues flowing through to the provincial and federal coffers.
Scotiabank pegs our inadequate pipeline capacity to about a $15 billion cost to Canada. So that certainly affects our industry in a very meaningful way. We are losing investment, which we otherwise would get here in Canada.
So there will be immense pressure from Alberta to Ottawa to get the process going again, quickly.
Okay, Carolyn Dunn joins me now from Calgary. Carolyn, Alberta's far along already when it comes to climate change. What should we make of the fact that now Alberta wants to pull out of the federal plan?
Well, it's like some kind of acrimonious divorce all of a sudden. You know, Alberta is going to keep its controversial carbon tax, but they're just not going to play ball with the federal government until this is fixed. In addition, Rachel Notley says that she wants the federal government to make an immediate appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada and call an emergency session of Parliament to get this review process fixed. It may be a bit of wishful thinking, of course, but she thinks if all of those things happen, that there is a chance that construction could restart in the new year.
Okay, how could all of this affect her, hurt her, help her politically?
Well, hurt her for sure. You know, even if the federal government fast tracks the consultation and the application process, there are some real doubts about whether that's going to happen in time to help Rachel Notley politically. She was already facing an uphill battle in the upcoming spring election, but she was planning on campaigning as the premier who finally got the Trans Mountain pipeline built. Now, that seems unlikely, Rosie.
Okay, Carolyn, thanks for this. Carolyn Dunn is in Calgary tonight. And this isn't just a potential problem for Rachel Notley. The Trudeau government has an awful lot riding on this, too.
The federal government has reached an agreement with Kinder Morgan.
It was politically risky from the start. Let a pipeline project die on its watch or buy it and hopefully offload it later to another company. But even with today's uncertainty, the finance minister still says the investment is good for Canadians.
We chose to purchase the project because it's a sound investment and because as a government, we can manage risks that in these particular circumstances would have been difficult for any private sector company to bear.
Okay, sounds logical, but now Canadian taxpayers are bearing a project the government insists is in the national interest, even though they can't know for sure what happens next. A political delight for the leader of the official opposition.
Conservatives are outraged that after months of ignoring our requests in Parliament, here we find out today that they had absolutely no plan and they just don't know what they're doing.
In fact, the government is reviewing the decision, which could offer some practical solutions like going back and doing further consultations, more review on the environmental impact on marine life, and even appointing a dedicated envoy to speak for the government with all stakeholders, all of which would almost certainly be faster than appealing to the Supreme Court. And it would leave the NDP with no room to do anything but denounce the project altogether.
Climate leaders don't buy or expand pipelines. The government should never have bought this pipeline.
Well, it did, and the purchase will likely go through tomorrow, political risk and all.
And you know, Rosie, where I am out west, I see with my own eyes how entrenched all parties have become in their positions, but I wonder, would it have been an option at all for the federal government to back out, to cancel the purchase and say, you know what, fine, we'll cut our losses, the pipeline's done?
Before today, sure, there would have been some financial penalties by the company to do that. Politically, could they have done that? Probably not. You can't forge ahead with an ambitious climate change plan if you're not giving something in return, and that's where the politics get complicated.
Complicated indeed. Still ahead on The National, a stopgap for the Canada-wide shortage of EpiPens as parents scramble to get their kids' medication before school starts. Plus, a daylight shooting inside one of Canada's biggest malls. We'll hear what it was like when the shots went off.
But first, it promises to be another awfully long night for NAFTA negotiators, trying to reach an agreement before tomorrow's deadline. Canada's team is chewing through Mexico's deal with the U.S., on the lookout for both red flags and, yes, possible compromises. And as Katie Simpson tells us, they're running on optimism and now caffeine.
Good morning, everyone.
The Canadian NAFTA team was clearly feeling pretty good.
We have brought you some popsicles. So we'll see you guys later.
Joking around with journalists isn't something politicians do if things are going badly. The Foreign Affairs Minister spent much of her day at the negotiating table, returning for 3 separate meetings with her American counterparts.
That was a long, intensive conversation with Ambassador Lighthizer and his team. We covered a lot of ground. The atmosphere remains constructive. There's a lot of goodwill.
Optimism was echoed by the Prime Minister, who suggested to Canadian premiers on a telephone briefing NAFTA talks are going pretty well, but there are still some concerns.
The only thing I will say is that, again, indicated very, very clearly and very forcefully Quebec's position on our 3 major areas of concerns: supply management, cultural exception, and dispute resolution mechanism.
A source tells CBC News those 3 issues, dairy, protections for Canadian cultural industries, and dispute resolution, remain unresolved.
The Canadian public should expect, the American dairy industry will probably have more access to Canada by the time this agreement is concluded, and we should not lose sleep over it.
Canadian dairy concessions are being considered in exchange for American compromises on the dispute resolution system. Negotiators have to work fast if they're going to meet Donald Trump's self-imposed deadline of tomorrow.
It's never over till it's over, and in Washington it's never over, so we're dealing with Washington.
Derek Burney helped negotiate Canada's original free trade agreement with the U.S. in the 80s.
What we're really looking at as a solution in this negotiation is something that Donald Trump can celebrate in America as a win for him with his base. We should never lose sight of that.
You're looking live there at this hour at a shot of the United States Trade Representative's office, where talks are about to resume. Chrystia Freeland is expected to arrive any moment now, and she and her counterpart, Robert Lighthizer, are going to sit down, even at this late hour, and try and hash out a little bit further the details of a NAFTA deal before that imposed deadline by President Trump of tomorrow. Now, many Canadians, of course, know Chrystia Freeland and know that she has been the face of these talks, but she is just one of several negotiators at the table. Here's a look at some of the other key players. Steve Verhoeven is Canada's chief NAFTA negotiator. He also knows how to make a deal. He led the team that secured CETA, a massive trade deal with the European Union, and was praised in the House of Commons for it.
He's one of those soft-spoken, quiet gentlemen that always has his finger on the pulse of what's going on.
But even Verhoeven admits NAFTA is different. Earlier this year, he called these negotiations the most unusual he's seen.
They do not come to the table, our counterparts, with a lot of flexibility.
Also on Team Canada, Gerald Butts, the Prime Minister's close personal friend and principal secretary, Brian Clough, Justin Trudeau's point man on Canada-U.S. relations, and David McNaughton, Canada's ambassador to the United States.
Do you have any early thoughts on the Canadian compromises?
On the U.S. side, there's top trade official Robert Lighthizer, a self-described curmudgeon and dealmaker who, like his boss, is skeptical of free trade. He works closely with Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law and advisor. Lighthizer called him a dream to work with, and Kushner has emerged as a key conduit between the White House and PMO. And finally, there's Kelly Craft, U.S. ambassador to Canada. She says she backs her president's agenda, but she also has a personal stake in NAFTA.
Being from Kentucky, Canada is our #1 trade partner, so I have a real interest at making certain that this border that we see in Kentucky is very thin and becomes thinner.
Je vais parler avec vous après ça. Merci.
Are you going to make the deadline for tomorrow?
At the time we can wait for you. Later.
And that's Chrystia Freeland heading back into negotiations now at this late hour in Washington, D.C., sitting across from her, Robert Lighthizer, and some of other Canada's officials to see if they make this deadline that the president declared for tomorrow.
Okay, lots more we're tracking live tonight, including the latest on an RCMP investigation in Manitoba after one of its officers was shot. A tense scene in western Manitoba today as a fourth and final suspect wanted for the shooting of the RCMP officer was arrested. The situation began late last night with a call to police about a break-and-enter about 100 kilometers north of Brandon, near the town of Ononol.
When the officers arrived on scene and exited the police vehicle, shots were fired at them.
One officer, a 42-year-old corporal, was hit. He was airlifted to hospital, and he's still there tonight in stable condition, but with serious injuries. As for the 4 suspects now in custody, no word just yet on possible charges.
I can't describe it. I never thought I'd have to be in the middle of a shooting.
I heard the shots, but I didn't realize it's a gun. When I thought that the guy is at the door coming to shoot in the store, and I covered her.
Stories of panic and chaos after gunfire broke out today inside Toronto's Yorkdale shopping mall. Police say an altercation broke out between 2 groups of men. One of them pulled out a gun and fired at least 2 shots. That sparked panic inside as shoppers ran for safety. Some were let out through the underground parking lot. Meanwhile, the suspects, at least 6 of them, all ran away. Police are looking for them. It doesn't look like anyone was hurt in the shooting, but boy, what a traumatic thing to go through for anyone in the mall at that time, but including a CBC videographer. She's our witness.
I was in Fruits and we heard a loud bang, sort of like something you would hear in a movie. And we all looked at each other and everyone just sort of stopped, and then we heard another loud bang, and that's when everyone realized that it was probably gunshots. I heard people screaming and we ran. A lot of people seemed like they were in shock because some people just weren't saying anything. A lot of people on their phones, I guess, to let people know they were okay. And then a lot of people crying, a lot of people very emotional. I will say that everybody behaved in a orderly fashion, which was amazing. Like, there was no screaming and pushing. Like, there was initial screaming with the gunshot, but then it's like everyone realized that we needed to be quiet and we needed to just keep moving. So I was impressed by that.
After what happened, Toronto Mayor John Tory wrote this on Twitter. Whether it is Yorkdale Mall or anywhere else in Toronto, people should not have to worry about gun violence breaking out at any time. There are too many guns available to criminals in the city, and I'm determined to end that with the help of our police and our government partners.
Still ahead on The National, the FBI has arrested a man for making violent threats against an American newspaper as Donald Trump unleashes yet another Twitter tirade against the media.
Plus, a third day of angry anti-immigration demonstrations in Germany. Margaret Evans looks at the reaction and the rise of the far right.
Plus, the federal government brings in an alternative to the EpiPen amid a nationwide shortage.
It's not a running shoe. It's not like, this is life-saving medication.
This is something that we carry, that we depend on.
The problem with one drug cornering the market on life-saving medicine, next.
For so many Canadians, there is no real alternative to the EpiPen. That's why shortages like the one we're going through now are so serious. But tonight, signs of a big change, one that should allow people with life-threatening allergies to breathe a little bit easier. Salima Shivji explains why.
Here you go.
This restaurant calls itself an allergen-free zone. Owner Paulino Senya's son, Lucien, has severe food allergies, and even though he feels safe here, his EpiPen is still always at the ready in case he goes into anaphylactic shock. He doesn't have a spare because of the widespread shortage.
It is extremely frustrating. You know, it's not a running shoe. It's not like, this is life-saving medication. This is something that we carry, that we depend on.
Pharmacists have been rationing their supply, but there's about to be another option.
To inject.
The health minister has ordered this from the U.S. AviQ will be in pharmacies next week. It has the same medication and same dose as an EpiPen and has a voice instruction system.
5.
The AviQ will be imported for 2 weeks while the government works to extend that to a year. And this pharmacist thinks they're here to stay.
Well, I think that all of the players have come to realize that over-reliance on one product, especially when there's a possibility of supply shortages, is a situation where we really don't want to find ourselves in the future.
The health minister says the government will continue to work with partners and stakeholders on long-term solutions to make sure life-saving auto-injectors remain available.
So that 19?
The availability of a new drug gives Paulino Senya a bit of breathing room as back to school looms.
Having to think of whether or not I'm going to have access to an EpiPen come Tuesday is something I don't want to have to worry about.
It's a matter of life and death for too many people. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Toronto.
There have been on and off shortages in Canada and the U.S. for well over a year now, because in this country, at least, Pfizer has been the only source of epinephrine auto-injectors. And Pfizer has had recurring manufacturing delays, in part because it's having trouble sourcing a particular component. Making things worse, this is the season of peak demand, since most kids head back to school next week. EpiPens also expire 18 months from the time they're made. But that being said, if someone is having a life-threatening allergic reaction and all you have is an expired pen, Health Canada says use it and call 911.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's good. Next, on the National, this morning, a double whammy. Donald Trump lets loose his latest barrage of tweets undermining the press, and a Californian man was arrested and charged for threatening the Boston Globe. Ellen Morrow looks at what can happen when the president subverts a free press.
Plus, there are calls for calm after days of angry far-right protests in Germany. Margaret Evans will explain what set them off and the growing anti-immigrant sentiment taking shape.
About 6 o'clock this morning, we heard 3 explosions.
A quiet California neighborhood got a rude awakening this morning as law enforcement officials descended on the home of a 68-year-old man.
It was always very nice to us, and he'd hang out in his backyard and listen to classic rock and smoke pot.
He also seemed to nurse a grudge against the media. Police arrested him for allegedly making threats against a newspaper. The CBC's Ellen Morrow looks at who may have inspired him.
These are just dishonest, terrible people. I'm telling you that. Terrible people.
It almost isn't news that President Trump launched yet another attack tonight in his relentless battle against the media, except for what else happened today. A California man was arrested for making violent threats against the Boston Globe. In one of 12 calls to the paper, Robert Chain allegedly said, "You're the enemy of the people. We're going to kill every effing one of you." Who else has been calling the media the enemy? President Trump.
I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. You know, CNN, fake news, MSNBC, You know, that's really the enemy of the people.
And it's totally common for presidents to criticize the press. All of them have done so. To label the press a domestic enemy is a sharp departure from any historical precedent.
The threatening calls began after the Globe and more than 300 papers across the U.S. published editorials criticizing Trump's attacks on the media.
The citizenry has to be informed about what's going on so that they can govern themselves. It's a pillar of democracy and self-governance. And the idea that the president, my president, their president, would declare the press to be an enemy of the people, we found deeply alarming.
The president's attacks are nothing new.
Because they are the fake, disgusting news.
But the fear now is that they could fuel violence. In another call, Chain allegedly said, "As long as you keep attacking the president, I will continue to threat, harass, and annoy the Boston Globe."
So there's the concern is President Trump, by the use of his language and attacks, giving sort of an open door to some people to say, you know what, I'm going to go do this.
It's the Washington Post, the New York Times.
That doesn't seem to worry President Trump. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Washington.
And just days ago, New York Times reporter Kenneth Vogel shared a threat he received on voicemail. Imagine getting this message.
You're the problem. You are the enemy of the people. And although the pen might be mightier than the sword, the pen is not mightier than the AK-47. And just remember, Ken, there's nothing civil about a civil war.
It's pretty scary stuff. But when it comes to demonizing the media, it's not just happening in the U.S. These are German protesters shouting a notorious slogan that translates as the lying press. It was once a favorite of Adolf Hitler, who understood that propaganda works better when people don't trust the media. For days now, thousands of people have gathered on the streets in one German city to take a loud and public stand against refugees. And as the CBC's Margaret Evans shows us, it's a situation that could explode.
The angry face of the far right in the German city of Chemnitz. Demonstrators hurling out a defiant call to all those who would criticize them. Get lost. Today, leaders at both state and local levels were at pains to reassure a gathering of community groups that law and order has not fled the city. It is very important to say that the state has the monopoly on the use of force, the Premier of Saxony said. We enforce law and order. Witnesses say it didn't feel that way earlier this week, when German authorities failed to prevent thousands of far-right activists from rampaging through the city in the wake of a stabbing that left a German man dead last weekend. The rioting grew after an apparent leak to far-right anti-immigrant groups that an Iraqi man was named in an arrest warrant in connection with the killing. Some of the protests used Hitler salutes, according to the police, illegal in Germany. And there were reports of mobs combing the city in search of foreigners. This Syrian man says he's afraid. I hope the German government brings in strict laws so it doesn't happen again, he's saying. Chemnitz is the third largest city in Saxony. As in other parts of former East Germany, hard-right parties, including the Alternative for Germany, have been on the rise, feeding on fear and anger in some quarters over Angela Merkel's decision to allow 1 million mainly Syrian refugees into the country back in 2015. Merkel has condemned both the killing of the German man and the violence and backlash against foreigners that has followed, saying mobs and hate on the streets have no place in a state under the rule of law. But far-right groups say they're planning more demonstrations for Saturday. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
We'll have another take on our top story next on The National. Neighbors divided over the Trans Mountain Pipeline can agree on one thing. The debate is all about the future.
In order to keep us whole, we've built pipelines.
This is really the economic future of the next generation.
I want to be able to look my children in the eye years from now and tell them that I did what I could do to protect their future.
Welcome back. Tonight on The National, a big development in that apparent road rage incident caught on camera north of Toronto. Police say they've tracked down the man who was driving this car as it drove down a highway with someone clinging to the hood. He's now facing 2 charges, dangerous driving and assault with a weapon. Now, the man who was hanging on for dear life told CBC News the whole thing started when he was in his own car and refused to let the other driver merge in front of him. Things escalated. He got out of his car to take a photo of the other driver's license plate, and it clearly got out of hand from there. Ontario Premier Doug Ford's Buck a Beer promise will soon be a little harder to deliver on. Just 1 week after it began selling $1 President's Choice beers, Loblaw says it's planning to stop a few days from now, September 3rd. The grocery chain was one of 3 Ontario companies to sign up for the program. And to be fair, it did say last week that this would just be for a limited time. And now we know how limited. And NASA is sharing details of a small emergency on board the International Space Station. A 2-millimeter hole was found leaking oxygen into space in the Russian part of the space station. NASA says crews discovered the problem last night after noticing a drop in pressure on board. Today, they worked to patch it up, but as for how that hole opened up, scientists say it might have been a chunk of space rock or debris hitting the station.
Today, an 1,100-kilometer pipeline slammed into 266 pages of a federal court ruling and came to an abrupt stop. Its future is now uncertain. The Trans Mountain project has been one of the great political sagas of the years even. But for people who live along the expansion route, it's also personal. So earlier this season, before today's ruling, Nick Purdon hit the road to find out what's at stake for them and their communities.
It's hard to find something more controversial in the country right now than Kinder Morgan's Trans Mountain Pipeline project. Here's the background. Kinder Morgan wants to expand their existing 1,000 kilometers of pipe so it will carry 3 times as much oil from Alberta's oil sands to the coast. The federal government wants it bad. They say it's critical to the future of the country. To environmentalists, it's a potential ecological disaster. So I'm going to drive the pipeline route from Edmonton all the way to Vancouver and talk to the people who live along it. Maybe they can help us better understand what's at stake. First stop is in Nisku, just outside of Edmonton, at Blackjack's Roadhouse. Now, this is a kind of unofficial union hall for oil patch workers.
Thank you, sir.
Clarence Shields is the owner.
You're welcome. We could become self-sufficient as a country if we were to transport our oil, and if we were to able to get our oil to Tidewater, all of a sudden we're self-sufficient.
The view from Blackjack's is that oil powers the country, and all Canadians can benefit from getting it out of the ground. That's the promise of the pipeline.
We're going to drive the route of the pipeline. What would you say to people who oppose it?
Think Canada first. That's the important issue. In order to keep us whole, we built a railway. In order to keep us whole, we've built pipelines. This is really the economic future of the next generation. If we don't have access to our resources, we're going to be a have-not country. That's what scares me. So that tells you.
Yeah. Those are the stakes from someone who believes that more oil will only bring Canada more rewards. But then you drive into Jasper National Park and it's hard not to think of risk too. I mean, look at it. This might be the most beautiful place in the country. And the pipeline runs right through it. A spill here? Well, just imagine. Todd Noble has worked at the Jasper SkyTram for 22 years. Show me where the pipeline is.
Well, it comes in from the east, comes in and around that mountain range and towards town.
10 years ago, Kinder Morgan was here upgrading the pipe, and Todd kept a close eye on their work.
They were in and out of here quite smoothly, no issues. The impact on the area was minimal. The area is not scarred. If anything, they came through here, and you'd never know they were through here, by all accounts. So,
some people might be surprised, a pipeline expansion in a national park, the postcard of the country, and the guy who runs the tramway has no problem with it.
Well, yeah, I think face value, it can seem maybe a little disturbing, but having experienced it before and how they manage the area, it's not such a scary thing to think about.
The reality is, there have been spills in Jasper, several of them. And along the entire Trans Mountain route, since the 1960s, 82 spills in all. And that's the thing about pipelines. You don't really notice them until something goes wrong. This is what the existing Trans Mountain pipeline looks like. It runs along here, but you can't actually see it because it's buried in the ground. I follow the pipeline across the border into British Columbia. It seems that here the popular belief is that everyone is against it because of environmental concerns. A couple of 100 kilometers down the road is the town of Blue River. I pull in at the Holy Smoke Inn and meet Patty Tyke. What would the pipeline mean for your town?
Jobs, jobs, and more jobs. I know they're thinking of bringing in a 500-man camp. They came and they did a big open house, Kinder Morgan did, told us all how to apply for good-paying jobs.
Patty tells me how her town has fallen on hard times since the logging dried up. She's not worried about environmental risks. She's worried about Blue River.
I love this place. It's jewel of the Yellowhead Highway, Blue River. It doesn't get any better. This whole valley needs it. We really need it bad. The jobs and just the people and everything. We need the pipeline to go through in order to survive. Come on, Timmer.
Timmer, come. In BC, there are more and more people like Patty. Polls show growing support for the pipeline, now as high as 55%. That's not to say opposition isn't strong, too. BC is a land divided. I drive a couple of hours south. Outside Kamloops, farms start to appear. I pull over in the village of Black Pines.
Okay, that's the rooster. His name is Lucky.
Lucky?
Lucky, yeah. No, he was lucky because we had a whole bunch of males and he was the best one, so he's the lucky one. The rest went to freezer camp.
For Penny Power and Charles Hayes, it's simple. The pipeline would mean the end of their farm as they know it. What's Kinder Morgan's plan?
If you can see it in this orchard, it's going to be gone. They're going to come in here. The pipeline is going to come right straight through there, essentially right where we're standing. This whole orchard becomes their easement, their right-of-way here.
Doesn't everybody have to sacrifice for the country?
It's not for the country. If they want to do something for the country, they can refine that oil here in Canada and sell it to Canadians. The problem, it's bigger than the farm, right? The problem is that oil is a 19th century technology, and we're not having a discussion about what's next. What can we do instead of? It's just, oh, we've got to pump oil because, you know, we've been doing it now for 100 years and we don't know anything else. That wasn't easy.
Listening to Charles, it's as if the Trans Mountain Project is a kind of referendum on oil. Sure, the pipeline is a national issue, but it's local too. It crosses the property of 2,200 landowners. And each of them has to decide what to do. Another 250 kilometers south of Kamloops on the Fraser River is the town of Hope. The pipeline crosses right by the property of a local legend. Hear that? Well, that's Pete Ryan.
It's an owl?
Yeah, he's coming out there, starting to shape him. It's the blocking of an owl. coming up. Got to get now ready because, you know, a lot of smart guys out there have to give them some smart answers.
For Pete and the pipeline, there's no debate at all.
Well, it's got to get built. It's not a matter if it ain't getting built. If it don't get built, we're all in trouble. I think it's good for the economy and it should be done. Yeah, bring them in. Let's get her going.
Only about 40 kilometers south of Pete Ryan's chainsaw is Chiam First Nation. I stop him because one of the biggest misconceptions about the pipeline is that all Indigenous people oppose it. The reality is First Nations are divided.
The pipeline will be coming along at the foot of that mountain. And
Ernie Cray is the chief in Chiam.
the popular image of Indigenous people is we're not interested in participating in the economic life of the larger community. Wrong, as President Trump would say, if I can quote him or imitate him, wrong. We want this pipeline to go through so that we can improve our economic standing in Canada. Mm-hmm. Then we're not going to stand by and let a bunch of green groups get in our way.
What Ernie calls green groups are the environmentalists who oppose the pipeline.
I've already told them, because they've phoned me and they said, we're just trying to help you, Chief Gray. My response was, please, please stop helping me. I do not want your help. I don't know where they get off thinking that my community can continue to live in poverty in this country by opposing developments like this that we see as important.
Ernie Cray believes in the pipeline so much that he says his community would consider investing in it to make sure it gets built. On the pipeline route, you can toss stereotypes and misconceptions onto the road.
So our trip's almost over. Vancouver is just in front of us. And we have one more stop we want to make. We're going to go to Burnaby to the end of the pipeline.
Because in Burnaby is where Kinder Morgan faces its biggest opposition. A permanent protest camp has been built just before the end of the pipeline.
So open up valve to a revolution, devastate a pollution, demonstrate a solution, eliminate the confusion, cut wood.
Coastal First Nations and environmentalists vow they won't let the project get built.
So here I am, turning into stone, and then I'll be standing here for years.
More than 200 people have been arrested already.
You know, even the Conservative Party.
One of them is Atiya Jafar.
I felt a lot of power in the act of doing something bold and doing something where I wasn't just sitting back and watching these events unfold. I want to be able to look my children in the eye years from now and tell them that I did what I could do to protect their future.
Are you proud of yourself that you got arrested, that you took that stand?
My battle is with oil billionaires who think that they can get away with destroying the climate, with violating Indigenous rights. So I would say that I'm very proud to stand in this fight against the Kinder Morgan pipeline. I'm very proud to stand strong.
I'm very proud to stand strong. Those words could echo all the way back up the pipeline. I am very proud to stand strong could be something that everyone said along the route. And that's the thing. Sure, people don't agree on the pipeline, but each and every one of them is passionate about their community and the future of the country. Nick Purdon, CBC News, along the Trans Mountain Pipeline route.
Well, after today's federal court ruling, we contacted a couple of the people that you just met in Nick's piece. Here's what they had to say about the decision. Patty Tyke of Blue River, British Columbia, admitted she was stunned by the ruling. She told us today, I guess this means we're going to get increased traffic on our railroads here and oil cars, and not looking forward to that. Atiya Jafar of Vancouver was elated, writing, today is a day of celebration. I am immensely grateful for the First Nations who have led this fight since day one and the tens of thousands of people who have stood behind them since.
And a reminder for you, you can subscribe to our newsletter. The National Today takes you inside our journalism every afternoon, takes you deeper on the top stories, and highlights the stories you may have missed. Check it out at cbcnews.ca/The National. Jude Rudix loves his local car wash. He loves the sounds it makes and the unicorn soap, as he calls it, that gets sprayed on the car. Jude has autism, and going through the car wash is calming for him. He loves it so much, his family bought a membership, and now they go through every day. And since Jude is there all the time, the car wash decided, hey, we should make him a manager. And that is our moment of the day.
That's when my husband actually got the business card. And my son grabbed some tape and put it on his shirt. And he goes, look, I work at the car wash. And that's when they decided that they needed to, they made him a name tag and they gave him a bunch of merchandise and stuff. And it's really cool. It means so much to have a business say, like, instead of, it being a bad thing that we want to go every day or that he needs it, the staff get almost just as excited as he does when he comes to the car wash. For the most part, he can just walk in and pick a desk to sit at. And today he actually was able to usher a few cars into the car wash and, activate the rollers and things like that. So he was really excited about that. And yeah, they really love having him there, which is fantastic.
So, Rosie, I love every part of the story. So this is a car wash in Lethbridge, Alberta. And the kicker here is that the parents, apparently, they're pretty shrewd. They've started using visits to the car wash as a bargaining chip with their kid to say, well, hey, if you want to, be good and we'll take you to the car wash. But apparently, he's actually turned it around on them and said, oh, okay, we're going on a shopping trip. Car wash first, which I think is just perfect.
That's some high-level kid there. I'm telling you, I love this story too. I also love a car wash and that unicorn soap. And I will say that they did see that piece that Joanna did the other day that we reran, where she went and met some autistic
Right.
adults who worked at a car wash, and they thought that was just great too. So there you go. That's the National for August 30th. Good night, everyone.
Good night.